Welcome to your Friday, April 29th edition of the SVG-TV News. I am Khalil Kato with the details. Minister of Finance Camilo Gonzalez said St. Vincent and the Grenadines' 2021 economic performance surpassed the predictions of international financial institutions. Minister Gonzalez, who was speaking at a news conference on Thursday, said that the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund had predicted that SVG's economy would contract by 6% in 2021. He said although the country did better than expected last year, predictions for the 2022 performance may not meet expectations.
We did much better than those predictions. And so instead of our economy contracting in 2021, it actually grew by about 0.5%. So, but let's just call it flat. But the important takeaway there is not the number, it's that the international community and the global economists thought that our economy would contract based on two things, the volcano and COVID. But instead, we held it together and the economy was there or thereabouts. By the same token, they expected that the economy would grow this year substantially by 8-point-something%. Now, part of that was them predicting that we would be coming out of a hole. So we'll be coming out of the 6% hole and going beyond that to 8-point-something%.
New numbers released by the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC, has predicted 2022 economic growth in the region to be 1.8%, and for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, economic growth is predicted to be 2.7%. Minister Gonzalez said while economic growth this year will advance by the reopening of the tourism will advance by the reopening of the tourism sector, a revival of agriculture and increased construction activity, it will be hindered by the war between Russia and Ukraine.
So all of the things that we began the year with in terms of prediction are doing well. The wild card is what has taken place now with the conflict in the Ukraine, which is not something we could have predicted at the beginning of the year. So because of that, I just came from the World Bank and IMF meetings. The World Bank and the IMF have radically downgraded their projections for global growth this year because of the challenges related to the war itself, the uncertainties about supply chains, and very importantly, the increases in inflation.
The World Bank has agreed to increase the funding for the construction of the island's newest hospital by $18 million. In March, representatives of the World Bank visited St. Vincent and the Grenadines to review plans for the new referral hospital, which is to be constructed at the site of the old E.T. Joshua Airport. At that time, government had secured $50 million. Finance Minister Camilo Gonzalez concluded meetings with the World Bank in Washington last week and provided an update on the hospital funding at the press conference. He said the price of construction material had risen considerably over the last 2 years as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and, more recently, the military conflict in Ukraine. These global economic shocks drove the costs of the hospital up in excess of $82 million. Minister Gonzalez said, in light of these factors, government was forced to renegotiate the loan amount.
So we were in a situation where we had $50 million to build a hospital that cost $80 million. The World Bank has pushed their allocation from this initial 50 to a number approaching $68 million. And we identified additional sources beyond the World Bank where the remaining monies could be sourced. So the World Bank is going to take their proposal to their board in July. We expect to have the World Bank approval for the final approval. They've already done multiple preliminary approvals, but we expect the final approval in August, and then at that point we'll be able to do the procurement of the services. So we're fairly optimistic, we're confident that very, very early in 2023, early January, February of 2023, we'll begin construction of the acute referral hospital in Arnesville.
Minister Gonzalez also said government was able to secure grant funding for $3.7 million for coastal protection services from the World Bank.
We received a $3.6 million US grant for coastal protection services, and those of you who recall some of the announcements from the budget, we're having a coastal protection unit now that is being created. We're doing the hiring now to essentially be a Bragsa for the coast. So you have a Bragsa to fix your potholes and your drains, but now we're receiving tremendous erosion, sea level rise, pollution on our coastline, and the coastal protection unit is going to deal with both our coastline and our waterways, our rivers.
The World Bank also provided financial resources for the improvement of Fort Charlotte and Fort Hamilton in the Grenadines. 200 households and youth across St. Vincent and the Grenadines are expected to benefit from a Family Life Education grant. This is according to Minister of National Mobilization and the Youth, Orlando Brewster, who was addressing a news conference on Thursday at Cabinet Room. Minister Brewster said 30 households also stand to benefit from a Family Survival Grant funded by the Caribbean Development Bank, and these are all part of the support being provided to the vulnerable in the COVID-19 pandemic.
Expand a little bit on this, because this would be targeting 200 households and 200 youth as well in the nation. So this is another component that would incorporate the youth in the Family Life Education support. Now, a new aspect is the farm skill internship, and we're working with the Ministry of Agriculture on this one, where we are trying to get 500 households between South Central Windward and Central Leeward, and this would also incorporate 200 youngsters in the farm skill internship program.
The government minister said the Caribbean Development Bank will also fund a business skills development and training for the youth.
What the CDB agreed to fund us this year is the business skills development and training, which would be another 100 non-farmers and 100 youth. So a major component of this is that in these programs, some of these youngsters, they will be given a stipend while they learn some of these valuable skills in farming, in family life education. So we're giving them the opportunity to uplift themselves through this COVID-19 period, because we have to deal with what is going to happen after COVID-19. So this is a golden opportunity for us to use this time to help to enhance the education of our youngsters and let them make a meaningful contribution to this nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Over 40 persons affected by the eruptions of the La Soufrière volcano in April of last year are still living in guest houses and hotels paid for by the government, with others in shelters at learning resource centers across the country. Speaking at a news conference yesterday, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez noted that some of the shelteries who are currently at these shelters should not be there. This week, some of the shelteries at the Mariaquaw Learning Resource Center and the Doris Mackey Learning Resource Center complained to SVG-TV News that they have been given days to leave the shelter. Most of the shelteries say they would be made homeless if they moved because of the condition of their homes, which were severely damaged by the volcanic eruption and are yet to be repaired. Responding to the complaint from the shelteries about the notice given to them to leave the shelters, PM Gonzalez said there might have been some miscommunication.
Anybody who tells them that is some bureaucrat who doesn't follow what has been happening in the decisions from the cabinet. Red Cross used to help to pay, and then Red Cross ceased paying. And I was in the cabinet when we took the decision that for a further 3 months in the first instance, we will continue to pay. So I don't know if any public servant hears that. Tell them stop harassing people with that kind of rubbish.
The Prime Minister, however, noted that some of the shelteries are staying back in the shelters to try to game the system.
No, this does not mean, and I've mentioned this before, there are one or two persons who can also go back, you know. And there are some people who go and come because some people, one or two people feel that they can game the system, that if they're in a shelter, they're first in the queue for a house. You know, it's not only businessmen could try and game the system, you know, the poor too. So I'm a practical man of affairs. And now it may well be that somebody probably told an individual whom they know have accommodation elsewhere, but who comes down. There's some who come, you know, I'm told. There are one or two who will use the shelter as a locale from where they can do a date in the community. You know, they leave their village, they leave their, you know, I mean, because it provides reasonable accommodation and meals. No, but those things, you know how I approach those things. Those things, as far as I'm concerned, given the numbers which we have, which we are spending, the amount of money we're spending, those are what the Latin scholar will say, they're de minimis. They're minimal. I'm not going to lose any sleep over somebody trying to game the system, a poor person trying to game the system here or there. No, I'm a practical man. I take all that in stride.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines will receive 24,000 sacks of fertilizer annually, which was promised by the government of Venezuela. Speaking at Thursday's news conference, Minister of Agriculture Soboto Caesar said that over the years, SVG's government imported 10,000 sacks of fertilizers annually.
The framework is in place for the effective delivery of some 24,000 sacks of urea annually to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are going to bring to Cabinet a framework to ensure that this is sustainable. There are many different models that could be implemented. Probably it's a fertilizer revolving fund. Persons will pay half price. And then you can double up, because 24,000 sacks of fertilizer, of urea, is valued at $2.5 million. And we are at that stage in our diversification that we will need it over a period of time. And again, I want to thank the government and people of Venezuela for the assistance.
Stressing the importance of fertilizer's use in farms, the agriculture minister said that by the end of the month, the government will receive 3,500 sacks of fertilizer from the government of Morocco to assist local farmers.
You could be the hardest worker on your farm. You could have the best yam heads you could find, or the best dashing slips you could get. The rains can come if you don't have fertilizer, and if you can't afford to buy your manure to apply it on time, you are not going to see the levels of production and productivity to be able to make a profit. And that is what it boils down to.
Explaining the discount on fertilizers, Minister Caesar noted that the cost to land a sack of fertilizer in SVG is $149.59 because of the impact of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine.
And I want to further explain that what is taking place here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and what the Ministry of Finance and the Minister of Finance and the Cabinet has done for the farmers as it pertains to the reductions in the price of fertilizer, is not something that is taking place in every other island, you know. In fact, I will say this. There are some other islands already saying that with the discounts given in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it is a fertile market for them to purchase fertilizer for export.
SVG's newly appointed ambassador to Venezuela, Gareth Bino, is expected to take up duties in Caracas next week. Bino will be replacing Andreas Wickham, who recently retired. The announcement of the new ambassador was made on radio this week by Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves.
We had announced before a good young man who is an experienced diplomat, Garrett Bino. He was educated in Mexico. He's one of the children of the education revolution. He's our only diplomat overseas with luck. We feel that he can take hold of the embassy in Venezuela. Naturally, as I say, he's experienced, he's fluent in Spanish. I expect him to be permanently in Venezuela from the first week in May.
PM Gonzalez says the embassy in Venezuela is already equipped with an administrative staff and is confident in Bino's ability to handle the affairs of the embassy in Caracas.
I went by the office, I visited the office, our embassy there, very nice office, well appointed and everything, as befitting a country like ours, an ALBA country member in Venezuela. And the embassy is open, because we have administrative staff there, and any issues, we deal with them from the capital. Remember nowadays with communication, any particular issue which needs any attention above any administrative level.
The St. Vincent and the Grenadines Community College retained the Windward Islands Debating Champions title after defeating the Dominica State College in the 2022 competition held virtually earlier today. Marika Batiste and Nisha Richards represented the SVG Community College in today's final. They put forward the proposition for the topic, countries have a right to impose vaccine mandates to protect the health of their populations. Best Speaker in the finals and Best Speaker overall went to Nisha Richards of the SVG Community College.
I am overjoyed to be participating in the annual Windward Islands Debating Competition. It is less than ideal that we must do so virtually. For instead of standing in your presence, ferociously debating, our discourse is confined to a screen. This is because we have a virus, COVID-19, that is affecting and threatening the health of our respective populations and disrupting the normal operations of the Windward Island Debating Competition. My team and I understand that while no doubt this decision was difficult to make, that it was done to ensure the health and the safety of all participants and to protect our loved ones. My team and I agree that sometimes tough choices must be made for the sake of the greater good. That is why we stand here today in unyielding agreement of the moot. Countries have a right to impose vaccine mandates to protect their populations. I will continue to fortify our stance by making it unequivocally clear that vaccine mandates are a vital last resort that governments employ when all other alternatives have been exhausted, and that vaccine mandates ensure the safety of future generations.
The SVG Teachers Union's new executive was installed today at the union's 22nd biennial convention. The convention was hosted under the theme, The Collective Principle, an ethical and effective tool for workers' advocacy. At the opening ceremony, President of the SVGTU, Oswald Robinson, said that the theme represents a reaffirmation of the teamwork and unity as unions continue to navigate challenges with workers, especially teachers.
For his blessings in seeing us through. It is this focus on the collective principle that enabled the SVGTU to respond to the needs of our members during the eruptions of the La Soufrière volcano in April last year and the impact of the mandatory vaccine policy imposed by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Indeed, we appreciate the support of the Caribbean Union of Teachers and all its member units who have provided tremendous monetary, material, and in-kind assistance, as well as the dues of our own members, which have enabled us to provide much needed assistance to our members.
Welcoming the new executive, Robinson encouraged them to give their best, noting that teamwork is crucial as the union endeavors to give of its best.
I warmly welcome you to the service of this great trade union, representing the most noble profession, the teaching profession. Your willingness to serve, as demonstrated by the election of the membership, is a testimony that must be embraced. Your commitment and dedication to be steadfast, focused, and uphold the banner of the SVGTU will give us even greater strength as we represent the interests of the membership. Teamwork is even more crucial as we endeavor to give of our best.
The Teachers Union president also thanked the outgoing executive members for their contribution, noting that they have all fought a good battle.
Special thanks to those who have served at this level. And I refer to those who are leaving the National Executive but not the Teachers Union. Because leaving the National Executive does not say everything is over, because there are still skills and abilities around and talents that we'll have to tap on from time to time. So, I repeat, teamwork is even more crucial as we endeavor to give of our best. Special thanks to those who have served at this level and have made their contributions and were essential to the achievements of the SVGTU.
Robinson further commended all members of the Teachers Union for their contributions over the years. The Bishop's College Kingstown hosted a career fair yesterday, giving students an insight into the world of work. Students were eager to hear presentations on various career choices, including law enforcement, health, beauty, and agriculture. We hear more in this report.
Classes were put on pause on Thursday as students of all farms participated in Bishop's College Kingstown Career Fair. Students were thrilled to get an up-close view of the role of beauticians, firefighters, radiologists, beekeepers, and pastry chefs. Guidance counselor and coordinator of the career fair, Cassandra Doyle, said the school administration wanted to expose the students to a variety of career options, especially for those who had not yet decided what path they wanted to take after they completed secondary school.
Their task is to motivate the students and let them know about the various career options that are available, because we know sometimes, a lot of times, the students, when you ask them what they want to be, they're not really sure what they want to be, and so we are exposing our students, preparing them for the world of work.
Form 5 students told SVGTV News the career fair has made them excited for life after high school. They expressed thanks to the teaching staff for working hard to get them ready for the upcoming CSE examinations and tertiary education to follow.
I think today is very beneficial and it's very intriguing because, you know, in school, being able to get the opportunity to see what happens out in the real world, this is very exciting for me as a fifth form, leaving to pursue my career, which is law. I want to be a prosecutor in the future, right? For the lower form students, I think it will be good as well because they too can see a perspective of what happens, you know, different institutions, they come, speak to us, you know. I am loving the idea of a whole career fair and not just the fifth form students, but each and everyone is included. So it is very important that everyone gets that opportunity to see what it feels like.
I was upstairs just now in a meeting with Vinlek and they were telling me certain things about, you know, engineering and financial departments and so forth, and that's what I love because they're giving me an inside aspect instead of I looking in and say, I wonder how this job will be and so forth, and they're giving me a more professional inside picture of how it should be done and what should be done, and that will give the students a more guaranteed picture.
Not just by the career today, but you know, when we started fifth form, the pushing from teachers, the encouragement, the insight, telling us each day to be focused, study, push hard, and as we have our CXE exam coming up soon, we see it as a privilege, you know, that we are going, our next step is going to college and furthering our studies with a university, and it will be very beneficial to us, not just as individual, but as a complete Bishop College body.
English teacher Janelle Brown said as part of the preparation for tertiary education, Bishop's College is working to foster a spirit of independence in the students.
One of the challenges I believe students may have leaving Bishop's College going into community college is that they don't necessarily have the independence that is needed, because we foster a very loving and caring environment, so they're accustomed to being babied in a sense. So right now we're trying to teach them to be independent, a little bit self-sufficient, because even though it's good to have community, they also need to know how to function on their own. So that's something that we're trying to get them into right now. Even today with the career fair, we encourage them to be very individualistic in terms of what they chose, not depending on what they thought their classmates would want to be when they grow up. So as you can see, we have a variety of careers represented here today. Even in their dressing, some students were very committed. We have the lab coats and all of that. So we're very proud of them because they are displaying a measure of independence that is going to be necessary even as they move into college.
Brown said both students and staff are pleased that the regional examination body, CXC, has made the decision to postpone exams by 3 weeks. Reporting for SVGTV News, Christina Smith.